Welcome back, everybody, to the KC Sports Report. I'm your host, Michael Darcy, and today I have the great pleasure to be joined by my guy, Kyle Collier. He is the producer of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB, and in this video, we are going to talk about the Chiefs' defensive line at training camp and some guys that have stood out and some guys that have made some major noise, whether it is being punches thrown or, where they're getting, reps with the ones or the twos. I do want to talk about the defensive line, and Kyle, is there anybody that sticks out as someone that has impressed you so far at camp on the D-line?
Yeah, right now I would probably say Ashton Gelati and Omar Norman Lott. We've gotten a ton of audio clips just from daily press conferences with coaches, players talking about the young rookies. Charles Omenihu, notably today, talked about Omar Norman Lott and learning about hand usage and hand fighting at the line of scrimmage and Spags even just talk about Omar Norman Lott. I know you're high on him, but to hear coaches kind of not glaze, but just kind of hype up a rookie and just how he's
Yeah.
performed this early in camp, that's got to be pretty impressive. Because as we know, when Norman Lott was drafted, it was kind of seen as a questionable pick. I don't know if that's the right term, but maybe a reach, perhaps. But uh, and this is a guy who at Tennessee put up ridiculous pressure numbers, but he really did not play all that much. So I think he really is just kind of an interesting piece on that defensive line. And as a rookie, if he contributes early, then we'll know that Brett Veach knew what the hell he was doing.
I think my hot take of all, training camp is that I think Omar Norman Lott's going to be the day one starter. I think with the way that you've seen him get reps with the ones, the way the
Yeah.
coaching staff has talked about him, like, it's not like he's beating out Chris Jones to start at defensive tackle. Like, he's going to play alongside him. And right now, listen, the defensive tackle room, I would argue, is probably as deep as it's been in years. Like Mike Pennell, Jerry Tillery, Omar Norman Lott. I love all of those guys. And in fact, Mike Pennell might be my favorite player on the team. For whatever reason, he's that guy that plays that dirty role. He's always good at stopping the run. He's been here
Yeah.
forever also, like part of that first Super Bowl team, just that savvy veteran. But I think that when you just see the upside of Omar Norman Lott and what he can bring from a pass rush perspective, if you pair that guy with Chris Jones, goodness gracious, like it's just going to make it so much easier for guys like, George Karlaftis and the guy that you mentioned, Ashton Gelati, to produce on the outside.
Yeah, and going back 2 years ago, the Chiefs were second behind the Eagles in sacks. Then last year, obviously, it dropped off quite a bit. And this year, they seem to have restocked. And to your point, if Norman Locke could be an impact guy day one, uh, that gives you a ton of different options. Charles Omenihu is a guy who can go both inside and outside. Chris Jones, obviously, can go both inside and outside. You could mix and match players here, and Mike Dana's still there, obviously. You got FAU, we'll see about him, but Ashton Gelati there too. This defensive line, all of a sudden, I'm really confident about the depth, but we have not seen the rookies play yet, obviously. So it's more of a theory than factual right now. But yeah, you brought it up. Norman Lott starting or playing with getting reps with the ones in practice already. If he turns out to be a hit of a draft pick day one, then all of a sudden your defensive line looks a lot scarier.
When my only pushback with the Ashton Gelati, hype is that he's got a lot more players to beat to get snaps
Yeah.
at edge than Lott does inside. And
Hmm.
again, that's no, disrespect towards Gelati. It's just when you got Mike Dana and Charles Omenihu and George Karlaftis and, FAU was a fairly high draft pick a couple of years ago, there's a lot of guys ahead of him. And
Yeah.
so, even Steve Spagnuolo said in his press conference that, we like Gelati, but it might take him some time to get up to speed. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for everyone saying that Ashton Gelati is going to come in right away and, be an impact edge rusher, I don't necessarily see that. But what if he follows the, Mike Dana archetype? Maybe he's better where he just, takes a couple of years to progress, but, he's a pretty solid edge rusher.
Yeah, and everything we've heard about Gelati is he's a high motor guy. Sounds a lot like George Karlaftis. Now, Karlaftis was a first round pick for a reason, and Gelati was in the third round. So I'm not expecting him to be, George Karlaftis as a rookie he was kind of just day one, just kind of set him there and forget. It's
Yeah.
like a three-hole hitter in baseball. You set it and forget it. That's your lineup. Gelati's not quite there, I would say. So yeah, you're right. It will take him some time to develop a little bit, get some playing time. But it's nice to know that you feel confident in your pieces, in your depth pieces, because I've listened to Spags talk the last 2 weeks. I've listened to Pete Sweeney, Matt Derrick come on our show, right? They've had nothing but good things to say about not only Gelati but Norman Lott as well.
Well, and to think that Charles Omenihu's going to start Week 1 barring any injury, and he has never done that with the Chiefs. He was suspended a
Right.
couple years ago, and he was coming off that ACL last year. And the boost that he might give this pass rush Week 1 is only going to make it better, and that's a huge thing for this defensive line. And I think Week 1, your edge rush group could be like, Charles Omenihu on one end, George Karlaftis on the other, and then you got guys like Omar Norman Lott and Chris Jones in the middle. That's a good pass rush.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And Charles Omenihu, he's back on a 1-year deal. And like you mentioned, he's finally got a full, healthy offseason where he'll be here. 6 games last year for Omenihu coming off that ACL. Only 1 start, only 1 sack. The year before, 11 games, 7 sacks. And like I mentioned it earlier, he can play both inside and outside. On a 1-year deal, he's only 28 years old. This is a guy who's going to be looking for a bag. So, if I were to pick like a dark horse guy to lead this team in sacks, I'd probably go Omenihu.
Well, and I do want to talk about, a little scuffle that happened at training camp.
Yeah.
We'll do that right after this ad break. This video is sponsored by my great friends over at DM Injury Law. Injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation, but time is of the essence. Rely on the experienced personal injury attorneys at DM Law, Kansas City and Missouri's top injury law firm. DM Law is a full-service personal injury practice supported by a large team of investigators, case managers, medical record specialists, and more. And best of all, you don't pay unless they win. DM Law operates on a contingency fee basis, so no fees unless they win your case. And they also provide free consultations. So if you've been injured, don't wait. You can contact DM Law today for a free consultation and learn how they can help you pursue the compensation you deserve. Let them handle the fight while you focus on healing. Hurt in a car wreck? Call Mike. Remember, Mike's got this. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisement. Thanks to DM Injury Law for sponsoring this video. Huge thanks to the sponsors that have supported this channel all offseason long. Now, Kyle, you know what happened. At training camp in St. Joseph, Missouri, it was a hot day on the practice field, and Josh Simmons and Ashton Gelati got into a little bit of a scuffle. I want to get your thoughts on this because I personally thought that it's not really much to read into. 2 guys that are ultra competitive, rookie on rookie. These guys are, trying to, fight it out in training camp to prove that they were worth, their draft selection. And in the just boiling, miserable heat, they threw a couple punches. And I didn't have a problem with it, but what were your thoughts?
I didn't have a problem with it either. Excuse me. I know Andy Reid is not a big fan of the fights, and in that video, you can see Andy Reid is pretty quick to get in there and actually break it up. But yeah, I get it. When the heat index is reading like 105, there's gonna be some tempers that flare, right? I don't have a problem with it. What I love about it, and I think people may or may not be running with this a little bit too much, but Josh Simmons and the Trent Williams comparisons, they're back. I think it was a couple weeks ago. They had the Kelsey brothers had Trey Smith on their podcast. Jason Kelsey was like, "Yeah, this dude, the punch, the power. This guy looks like Trent Williams." And now he's starting fights in practice. I mean, the comparisons, there they are. I won't put a Trent Williams expectation on the guy, obviously, but I think it's impressive because it shows you that your first round pick coming off an injury, he still feels like he's got to earn it, right? And there's nothing wrong with a guy on either Gelati too, with a guy on the offensive line or the defensive line. Absolutely nothing wrong with your guy having a nasty streak, right?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, everyone that is, blowing this fight out of proportion, Gelati's trying to show Steve Spagnuolo that, like, hey, like, I can play. I want to
Yeah.
be a part of this rotation, especially when, we've seen a little bit of FAU tape so far in camp, and I don't know what you think. No. Like, he's going to make the team because he was a first-round draft pick, but, I mean, he has been struggling, to say the least. And,
Yeah. They called him a project after he was drafted. The project's taken a little while, isn't it?
Well, and there was some comment that was like, you saw last year in that one rep that he had that, where he got the sack, that like he can turn the corner, he's got what it takes. Till we see it, I think he's got maybe the most pressure of any player on that defensive line to
for
prove
sure
that he deserves to be here. And I think that, Gelati getting back to the fight, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought Gelati was just trying to, be aggressive and, tempers, flare.
Yeah, and what we know of what happened before the fight is that there was a rep between the two in one-on-ones, and they actually had the referee crews in there, and Simmons got flagged for ending the rep by kind of tossing Gelati to the ground, right? So tempers were kind of building a little bit. I love it. I think it's fine.
Well, and again, tempers are going to flare when, you're at practice, it's hot, the pads are on, it just feels like this practice is never going to end.
Yeah. And you're on turf, which makes it hotter.
You're on turf, and then, one guy pushes you the wrong way, and you're like, I don't really like the way that you push me. And then, one thing leads to another, and punches get thrown. Like, there's not really much to, read into this situation. And it's funny because, Travis Kelce did the same thing to Jack Cochran like 2 years ago. You remember that?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I love it. And we know Kelsey's a competitor. We know he's not going to take anything from anybody. So I love it. Two rookies doing that to each other, totally fine with it. And I'm stealing this from Chris Long, I think, who tweeted it out. But he was like, yeah, that Simmons kid, he was quote tweeting the video. It was like, that's elite punch. That's elite twitch. You can't teach that.
Hey,
I love
I'll
it.
take it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take it. But
just don't
Kyle,
get too many personal fouls, or Andy
Yeah.
Reid's gonna have a chat with you.
Oh, I think one personal foul, and then we'll have a conversation. But Kyle, I think that was a good conversation about the defensive line and training camp, and we'll continue to monitor which guys, continue to make, strides towards, starting week one, or, what the rookies are going to look like. But that is all the time we have in this video. My final question for you is, where can the people find your stuff?
Listen to me on Sports Radio 810, weekdays 2 to 6. I produce the program with Sarim Petro. And then find me on the X, the Twitter, Kyle Collier _810.
And guys, all that stuff will be linked in the description of this video. Hit that like button, subscribe for more Daily Chiefs content. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching this video. And as always, go Chiefs.